This is how I change the oil on my 2000 Celica GT. I have my oil pan, my oil funnel, this oil rag. I have the 5W30 itself. I'm choosing to use Restore and Protect this time. And I have a Toyota OEM oil filter that apparently they were selling at Walmart, but you can usually get these off of eBay for maybe 5 to 10 bucks. I got this for 7 though. And this is just my normal toolbox, but I should only be using the 14mm and the ratchet. Then we go over here, and I got something to jack up the car with. And since it's like 50 degrees outside, this thing is like very cold right now, so this is gonna be fun. Step 1, don't mind all the mud down there. I was recently at LKQ. Let's gotta pop the hood. And I'm going to loosen the oil cap here, but I'm gonna leave it just like on there so that way no debris gets in there, just so that way air can get in and out. It'll be hard to see, but there should be, actually it is very hard to see, the jack point for the car. I can't really see it. It was a little hard to see with the side skirt here, but it is, let me get the flashlight in here. It's right there for me. There's my jack point. Once the car is jacked up enough, take your oil pan, take the lid off of it, or the cap off of it. If I can. Is it cross-threaded? It was a weeny bit cross-threaded, and then you undo this part. Make sure this is as tight as you can possibly get it. I know mine is. Gotta move the tools out of the way for a moment. Here's the oil pan. Oil filter's right there. I usually jack up my car enough to get the, there we go, roughly right there-ish. Hey, would you look at that? My front motor mount is not on an OEM nut and bolts. It's on I mean, it works, but it's on a washer. While I'm down here, I always like to look at things like, for example, there used to be an oil leak here, but from the valve cover, but I fixed it. And then same with some power steering. There were, I don't have any leaks right now, I don't think, since everything seems fine. But mainly, it's this I'm looking at, the motor mount. I'm gonna be doing motor mounts within the next few months, and this is the way I'm gonna get to it. Oh, and look at these sway bar end links. Shot. You're gonna take your 14mm and you're gonna break this nut loose just a little bit. I may have to do this off camera since it's really cold out. And thank goodness for small favors, I never over tighten this bolt. I'm the one who does my oil changes, so I just never over tighten this. Not 3 times, in 1 time. Zoom please, Samsung camera. And then you just loosen this up. I'm doing it by hand since, why not? I'm trying to hold the drain plug against the pan so we don't get lots of oil all over the place. But even though I'm wearing gloves, so heck yes. And I'll put the drain plug right there ish. So I'm gonna move the entire thing up a little bit so I don't leak onto the street. Rather not leak any oil onto the street. Please don't leak, please don't leak, please don't leak anywhere. It's very cold out. And then once this is done, we'll get the filter. I would like to mention, since I only do my oil changes on the side of the road, I only jack up one side of the car, just enough to get the oil pan under there. It's how I do it every time, and it works perfectly. Like, even with the left side down a few inches compared to the street on the grass there, because there is a lip right there on the street. It does go down. This does drain very nicely. At this point, it's basically done draining, so I'm going to put the oil drain plug on the pan and make sure you're not cross-threading it. I usually reverse thread it first. That's that way I feel the click, and then I can thread it, but in this case I'm just threading it normally. But there was no resistance, so I know I'm not cross-threading it. Just gonna make it hand tight for now. Or finger tight, I should say, not hand tight. If this is as much as I could get with my fingers. And then we're gonna pull the oil pan out. As long as there's no more oil dripping, there shouldn't be. Perfect. Oil pan comes out. Look at all the oil on there that I gotta, like, whoosh into the, yeah. I'm gonna take my 14mm wrench. I'm just gonna tighten this a little bit. Just, oh, I dropped a piece of oil. No, whatever. Doesn't have to be too snug, just on there nicely. Yep. So that way it doesn't take me a million years to get it off next time. And here's what I think is the hard part. Get your oil pan underneath the filter. And I'm wearing rubber gloves. We got these rubber gloves, like a pack of 100 of them for $5 from Walmart. We just gotta. It's so cold, so you just gotta loosen it. I do my oil changes all the time, so I only tighten this hand snug. But it's so cold out, so this may take me a little while. It took a while. No tools required. The oil filter wrenches I do have are too large for this, so I gripped my left hand around the bottom and my right hand around the top. There's a little bit of space back here other than the oil filter housing. And then charged with all my might with rubber gloves on. I would not have been able to do that without rubber gloves. And then finally started moving, and now I can get it by hand. Ah, that's so nice. Oil is going to drip out. I'm going to try to get as little of it on my glove as possible. That'd be great. I have my oil pan underneath you. You can see all the oil coming out now. Just gonna let that do its thing. Drain out a little bit. And then I get to fully remove it. I guess there's no choice but to get oil on my glove. Ooh, it makes gripping this thing even harder. I really don't want this to fall on the street. I'd rather it not. In fact, let me move the oil pan. I got it off. The oil filter housing is draining. The oil filter is draining. Oh geez. My main goal was just to not get this on the street. Even though there's some oil spills on the street from, I think one of them was me, and then the other one was another person's oil change. I'm not taking the blame for his Mazda. And yeah, I'm gonna clean this up a little bit with the rag I got. Actually, I may just get a paper towel. Fresh paper towel and fresh pair of gloves on both hands. Even for anything besides an oil change, invest in a nice pair, or not a nice pair, just like rubber gloves. $5 at Walmart for a pack of 100 of them. They're super helpful. I'm just gonna fold this in half and then wipe down the oil filter housing. Just a little bit, not too much. We gotta lubricate the O-ring. You don't even need to wipe this down. I'm just doing it just to be clean. This is irrelevant to this step. And there it is, nice and clean. Take this out. I'll deal with that in just a little bit. Now we're gonna open this up. So these Toyota OEM ones have this little plastic on it, and I think it is actually pre-lubed with, there's like a little silicone paste in there that lubes the O-ring. But either way, we're just gonna compare old and new parts. That one's a little taller, but I think it should still fit. Should be alright. Let me check the part number. The part numbers are a tiny bit different, but like it did say it would fit my car, so I'm gonna go with it and see if it works. Took the plastic off, and this has a silicone grease around it, which I'm pretty sure that means I don't have to pre-lube it, but there are instructions on here. Like here, it's apply engine oil to the gasket face while ensuring that the filter gasket is fully sealed. Like even though there's lube on here, it does ask you to lube it up with some oil. Just gonna open this up, and I'm gonna stick my finger in there. Yeah, it's pretty clean. Stick my finger in there. It's just a tiny bit of oil, not a lot. And then just put some on the filter, just like that. Perfect. Close this back up so I don't accidentally spill it. We're not on that step yet. And then we're gonna screw this on here. Make sure we're not cross-threading it. Am I just bad at this game, chat? It says it fits. One moment. Yep, it fits, and it's on hand tight. It's not coming off, and I'm not gonna tighten it extremely with hand tight since like I struggled to get the old one off a little bit, and it's really cold, and I want to be able to get this off next time without too much of a struggle. So I want to make sure it's not coming off. Perfect. Now comes the step we've all been waiting for. We get to pour the oil. So the 1ZZ takes 4.6 quarts of oil to fill up, so I may or may not put all 5 quarts in, but this car also burns oil, so I'm going to need to get another jug of that eventually. I poured roughly 75% of the oil in there that I felt from that jug into the thing just to check the oil level, and here it's only at like maybe 20-ish% on the dipstick, so I'm gonna pour a little more and then check it again. It's a little hard to tell, but it's closer to 100-ish%. It's so hard to tell the level of the oil with new oil. I forget where I heard this, but I heard somewhere that the distance between the bottom dot and the top dot on the dipstick is 1 quart in the oil pan. And whenever I check my oil, it said 150%. So with what I have left in the jug, roughly, let me get the measurement without spilling this thing. Less than 1 quart left of oil in here. I know that much. I'm going to run the car for a minute and see where it's at on the oil. I'm going to turn the key to get fuel pressure, and then it's going to need to gain oil pressure again, so it's going to make a few noises. Or no noises at all. Ooh, smells. I can smell the oil burning. Okay, because last oil change I did, it had to gain oil pressure, and it made a few clanking noises here and there just until it got the oil in there. Gonna let it run for another 10 seconds and then let all the oil go back down and then check it, because for me it's at 150%. If I check the dipstick right now, I'm gonna need to clear it off, but then if I check it again after that, it's probably gonna say somewhere between splashing all over the place and the correct level. Two things to note. One, this oil, I don't know if you could tell, but it looks like Golden Requiem, like a JoJo reference type shit. And for two, since this is Restore and Protect, there's probably going to be a little bit of debris on this dipstick here and there. It says it's at like 110%-ish, like a tiny bit above the top line. I'm not worried about that, because you could fill a lot of cars up by an extra quart of oil. And even then, in some of the newer Celicas, Toyota designed another dipstick where the dots are a little bit higher up to add, or to counteract the oil burning. They thought adding a quart of oil to this thing would stop the oil burning, but it didn't. So you can easily add like another quart of oil on top of these onesies. It'll be perfectly fine. Plus, I've driven around like that in the past. So with this being at like maybe a quart or less in here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to drive this to work eventually, and then tonight I'm going to check my oil again. And last time I did my oil change, I did the same process, and it said like 50% on the dipstick after this, whenever everything was fully settled. So I may have to buy another quart of this, another jug of this. But it's a onesie. If you have these things and you know what you're doing with it, then you know you're gonna have to always have another thing of oil with you. But as far as I'm concerned, my oil is changed for now. I'm just gonna have to keep up with it for the next like day or two.